want to bring in New York Congressman Peter King right now. Congressman, it's a pleasure to have you on the program this morning.
Thank you, Maria.
Thanks for joining us. First, I want to get your thoughts on these leaks, and also I want to point out this story in the cover story of the Wall Street Journal here. And basically, it says that the spies are keeping intelligence from Trump, not giving him all of the information that they should be giving him. We did get a response from government saying that's absolutely not true. But what are your concerns?
Listen, I think that 99% of the people in the intelligence community do an outstanding job. I think there were some people at the top in the previous administration who were trying to undermine the incoming Trump administration. But in this case, you have Mike Pompeo, who is the director of the CIA. You have former Senator Coates, who's the director of national intelligence. They're not going to allow intelligence to be withheld from the president. And again, I think there are some elements, and these can be holdovers from the Obama administration, who may be trying to undermine the president. But the fact is, the intelligence community has to work for the president, no matter who it is. And again, we have strong people in there. Senator Coates and Mike Pompeo are very strong, patriotic Americans, and they are going to make sure that the president receives all the intelligence that he has to receive.
So you think that there is leaking going on, and it could be the fact that there are some holdouts from the Obama administration who are just unhappy with President Trump?
Is either that or just people who oppose the policies. But again, this would be a very small percentage. But the point I'm making is, and by the way, the leaks are serious. I think we have to, on the one hand, we have to look into whatever Russia did or didn't do. That's important to be investigated. The FBI is investigating that now. But on the issue of leaks, again, with General Flynn, and again, I can't go into the whole story on that, but again, if there's a transcript that's being made available to anyone outside law enforcement, that is absolutely wrong, because, first of all, we should never be announcing or telling whether or not we are monitoring a foreign embassy. Whether we do it or not, that's never acknowledged or admitted by the government. Number two, if an American's name or if an American turns up in that conversation, under the law, that has to be masked, that has to be hidden, that cannot be made known. And yet, in this case, you had not just General Flynn's name brought out, but apparently the entire transcript was being made available. So, and you know, the disclosure of that is a serious offense. And for those who are so anxious, I understand this, why they want to investigate Russia, that's one thing. But don't allow this type of leaking to go on, because this can ruin people's reputations, innocent people, and it violates a very, very serious component of the law.
Congressman, I want to get your take on something else. I don't know if this is related, but it bothers me that 3 IT specialists were fired. And they had access to all of this information in intelligence and foreign affairs. You know the story I'm referring to, yes?
Yeah.
3 IT professionals. They were 22 and 23, making $165,000 a year, 3 times what an IT specialist makes. 3 Muslim brothers, and they weren't arrested. What's going on with that case? Do you have any idea?
I have ideas, but I really can't discuss it. I'm on the Intelligence Committee, and that's all I can say is I really can't discuss it with you.
Okay, because there's some speculation that they could have ties to terrorism.
Again, I can't go any beyond that. I'm on the Intelligence Committee. I know the matter is being fully investigated, and that's really all I'm at liberty to say.
I understand, Congressman. Thank you. We're seeing some chaos, obviously, in the cabinet. Congressman Mick Mulvaney facing some GOP resistance. What do you say about that? Senator John McCain says he plans to oppose Mulvaney in his confirmation vote as budget director. And Andy Puzder, of course, withdrew his nomination.
Yeah, right now, to me, it certainly appears that Mick Mulvaney is going to be confirmed. I know that there are differences with him and John McCain. John was very critical of Mulvaney because the government shut down several years ago. But right now, it looks as if he's going to go through. My feeling in these things is that the president of either party should get his nominee unless there's some real reason to oppose them. And under that situation, I'm confident that Mick Mulvaney is going to be confirmed. As far as the Labor Secretary nominee, I just think that, unfortunately, there's always one person who doesn't make it through, and there was an accumulation of evidence building up, which I think put a number of Republicans in a tough spot. But again, I'm not in the Senate, but I wasn't surprised the way this was unfolding the last several days.
Congressman, I mean, as a member of the Intelligence Committee, do you worry that we're seeing this kind of upset going on, that we do have potential leakers, even though it's a handful of people? What should the president do about that? And is there anything to sort of weed that out? I know you just said with Mike Pompeo and everybody else there, they're going to make sure that the information gets to the president. But is there a way to get everybody on board?
Well, it's important. I think that they have to find out who was doing the leaking, and they have to take strong action against them. Otherwise, there's going to be a climate where this becomes acceptable. It has to be made clear this is totally unacceptable. It can't be tolerated. You cannot have this type of information being leaked out. No matter how you feel about the president, no matter how you feel about any particular official, you cannot allow this to go on. And I would say the same thing if Hillary Clinton were the president. You cannot do it. You're talking about top secret information. You're talking about very sensitive information. And for that to be out there, it's just, again, it puts America at risk. It's really dangerous. And again, this has nothing to do with whether or not the Russian, that's going ahead. That's been going ahead, even though it's important to note, despite the headlines in yesterday's New York Times, buried in the middle of that story is that after all this investigation, so far no collusion or no criminal conduct has been uncovered. Now, it may end up happening, but I think it's important to keep all this in perspective.
Congressman, can you give us a timeline in terms of getting business done on the House side? Look, we know that yesterday Senator Rand Paul walks out of a meeting with Speaker Paul Ryan because he's upset of where the Obamacare situation is going. He doesn't want an expansion of Medicaid. We know that tax reform, everybody was hoping for it, and the markets are rallying for it, and then now we understand it's not happening until the second half of the year. Can you walk us through a timeline in terms of getting business done, those two major pieces of legislation that people want to see, the American people want you to get to work on those two things?
Well, I can assure you work is being done on it. In fact, we're having a meeting today at 9 o'clock. Paul Ryan is having a meeting for all Republicans on what the current status of the Obamacare repeal is. But there are some issues. I know that Rand Paul was upset yesterday, but you take a state like New York, 800,000 people have been added to Medicaid expansion. What do you do with that 800,000? If you cut the funding tomorrow, what happens to those 800,000? Because we also pledged during the campaign that no one would lose their coverage. So the idea is, how do you transition from the plan which is in effect now, the Obamacare plan, which was wrong, but the fact is there are 31 states tied into the Medicaid expansion. What do you do to make sure that the transition is done in a way that people are not just dropped off the rolls? And that's basically what Paul is going to try to explain to us today. That's one of the key issues I know that's coming up. So there'll be a much better read on this by 10 o'clock today.
Tax reform, Congressman, are we going to see it in 17?
I think you're going to see, yes, I think there's a real impetus for tax reform. Again, there's some questions there. For instance, what do you do about the deduction of property taxes and things like that? But no, there has to be tax reform. On the overriding issues, we have to have it. It's important to get money back here in the United States to allow job creation, especially for small businesses. So it has to be done. And you just see the way the markets rally. You just mentioned tax reform, and the markets go up. So no, this has to be done. I would put that as probably the most important thing we have to do this year.
Okay, so that's your priority list. Congressman, good to see you as always. We so appreciate your time and your insights.
Thank you, Maria. Appreciate it very much.
We'll
Thank
see you soon. Congressman Peter King there.